Coverage of the 109th Indianapolis 500 is brought to you by Qapital. To quote the great Paul Page, a year's waiting has come to an end. We are racing around the oval in the month of May, and boy oh boy do we have an incredible amount of content and coverage to come over the next 2 weeks. And if you are not subscribed to this channel, go down below and hit that subscribe button. We will be bringing you what I believe is the best coverage of the Indianapolis 500 that you're going to find anywhere. So while you're down there, hit the like button and leave me a comment as well. I guess for the first day, I want you to predict who you think is going to win the Indianapolis 500. We'll go back to this video at the end of the month and see who got that right. But it has been, I mean, what an amazing day today. We lost the first 2.5 hours because of rain, a little bit of sprinkles. It wasn't heavy rain, but it was enough to wet the track, and we had to dry it. But we got it dried, and we got running. Now, the end of the day was interrupted by 30 minutes. The last 30 minutes of practice was taken out by a lightning delay, but we got enough running that we should have a decent idea of who's fast and who's slow. There is a bit of a gap between the front and the back of the field as things stand right now. And of course, the new hybrid unit is going to be a huge story. We talked to a bunch of drivers. We've got a history segment. We've got a lot of things. But one of the things that I'm most excited about, and you heard it at the opening of this show, is this year's Indianapolis 500 coverage. We have a title sponsor, and we'd like to introduce you to them now.
Just like the Indy 500 isn't won in a single lap, building wealth takes strategy and the right team. With Qapital's automated savings tools, you'll navigate every turn of your money journey and race towards your goals faster. Whether you're saving for a new car, vacation, or building an emergency fund, Qapital puts money management strategies in your pocket. Download Qapital today at qapital.com/DavidLand. That's QAPITAL.com/DavidLand.
Here are the results for the first day of Indianapolis 500 practice. It's Will Power, the 2018 winner, on the top of the boards, the only driver in the 227 mile per hour speed bracket. Josef Newgarden, the twice defending winner, looking for his third Indianapolis 500 win in a row. No one's ever done that. Is second place. He was also second place on the no-toe charts today. Those will become much more important as the week goes on. Alex Palou has been on a historic run in IndyCar racing, and he's third on the board right now, looking for his first Indianapolis 500 win. Scott Dixon's looking for his second. Chip Ganassi Racing looking extremely strong, as is Scott McLaughlin and the entirety of Team Penske. They were some 2 miles per hour faster down the straights than any other car today. Helio Castroneves is looking for his fifth Indianapolis 500 win, and he's sixth on the board today. Alexander Rossi, with his new ride at Ed Carpenter Racing, is seventh. Marcus Armstrong is taking to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway very well in his second year, and it's another Marcus Ericsson, with the Allegra colors just behind him in ninth place. Marco Andretti rounds out the top 10 on today's board, and Marco's pretty good at putting up a number. He put one up today. Christian Rasmussen for Ed Carpenter Racing picks up where he left off last year with a very strong 11th place today. David Malukas for AJ Foyt Racing, actually the fastest of the AJ Foyt cars. And then we've got Ryan Hunter-Ray and Jack Harvey, actually Jack Harvey and Ryan Hunter-Ray in 13th and 14th for Dryer and Reinbold with Cusick Motorsports. Ed Carpenter shows that all the Ed Carpenter Racing Chevys are up near the front half of the field in 15th. Colton Herta for Andretti Global is in 16th. Stingray Robb, the fastest of the Juncos Hollinger cars. Felix Rosenquist a little bit further down the board than I would have expected, but that would seem to indicate that maybe he was running at the front of the pack more than at the back of the pack. And another driver that would indicate is Kyle Kirkwood, who had the fastest no-toe speed of today. And I think a lot of people think that he's got a good shot to win the Indianapolis 500. Nolan Siegel is a rookie once again, as he failed to qualify last year. It's the only race of this season that we will consider Nolan a rookie. Connor Daly in the beautiful purple number 76. We like Buddy Lazier purple cars around here. Kiffin Simpson ran the most laps today, just over 80, 84 to be exact. Christian Lundgaard a little bit further down the board. In fact, you're going to see all of the McLaren cars down at the bottom of the speed charts. And Pato O'Ward actually said to Fox Sports today, as we look at Kyle Larson in the 24th position, that they don't really do all that well, the McLaren cars, on their own, which is kind of interesting. They're good in traffic, but not good leading. Devlin DeFrancesco for Rahal is actually the fastest Rahal in the field so far. Graham Rahal behind him. Santino Ferrucci for AJ Foyt. Jacob Abel in that beautiful Miller High Life scheme. And, it doesn't matter all that much right now, I'll admit that, but he was third on the no-toe charts today. Pato O'Ward signed a whole bunch of autographs during the rain delay, so we want to shout out that. It was awesome to see him do that, especially for all the kids. Louis Foster has new colors for the number 45 of Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan. Takuma Sato got his new chassis up to speed today, but he's still at the back of the field. And Rinus VeeKay is an oddity because he only did a 219-mile-per-hour lap and ran 54 laps. And, of course, the two Premas bringing up the rear. Robert Schwartzman only got 6 laps of practice today, and Callum Ilott only got 16. They were late meeting the gun, and both cars are in the 217-mile-per-hour range. And I'll say this just for the sake of saying it, if we qualified today, which of course we didn't, Callum Ilott would have been the driver bumped from the field. So we spoke to many of those drivers that I just talked about today. Let's watch that now.
It's felt good. It's been on track 2 times, 4 days. We had it in October for the test then, and we had it in the test a couple weeks ago here. It feels solid. It feels really solid. I always like getting a new car. It's a new relationship. It's very fun. It's exciting. You're getting to know each other, but it feels good.
What's the racing going to be looking like this year, do you think?
I think it's going to be a tough race in a good way. I think the hybrid's going to be a big component of it, which we've talked about. It is very much impactful here. The way you use it, when you do, when you don't, I think that's going to lead into strategy and how you run the race. I think it'll be tough as far as, I think the complexion of this race will be very similar to last year. I think what we lost with the added weight of the car, we've gained back with the hybrid. So I think it sort of cancels it out to some degree, and the style of racing you saw last year will probably be mimicked this year.
I think very strong, especially in traffic running. I think we were honestly one of the more competitive cars in traffic, being able to run, 5 cars back, 10 cars back, even 20 cars deep at times, and timing runs, passing people. So I feel very strong about our race car as a whole, and I think we know what we need to do to optimize our qualifying car a little bit better.
I feel like Indy always kind of feels the same. I feel like the road courses are where the cars seem to be more different, and the hybrid probably is a bigger difference than whatever car you're in. Like that's a massive hit to how the car feels and behaves and slides around, and I'll say it's just more difficult to drive, and it's going to take more discipline from the driver to not make mistakes, or especially during practice. If you feel a little sketchy, probably good to come in, have a look at it, talk to engineer, breathe, and then and go back again, because that whoever can make that package less uncomfortable is going to be a huge asset on race day.
Never easy, but it always can be done, right? And I think in the 500, at least to give the driver a couple of days practice, more than, let's say, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then to practice you have to go straight qualify. That would be very, very tough. But at least you can build up. And that's why, and a lot of great preparation takes account for the actual weekend. So I like this format, and very kind to the person who just participated in 500.
Super excited. It's nice to roll into with a bit of continuity and be ready for what's ahead for the month. But I think we're going to be just as fast. It's just going to be depending on who sort of jumps ahead and gets better. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of people like that, but. Having the experience from last year and leading the race and for the first time ever, and I think that bodes really well for me and puts me a lot more in a calmer state.
Well, what was that like last year? How much did you learn running in the front of the pack rather than the back?
Oh, it's a ton. I think just the cadence of the race, how it all works out, the fuel-saving techniques that you got to do. You can prepare as much as you want, but at the end of the day, like having that experience run at the front and doing those key pit stops and stuff, is a big thing. We were right there. A couple little issues on the car that hampered it, but ultimately, I thought we ran a really good race for what we had.
It seemed at the test that things were coming a little easier. Lap times were coming a little easier.
Not saying passing's any easier and things like that. I mean, you have the mass of the car that, that's going to use the tire more, things, in that nature. But for me, I mean, even to do the time that we did at the very end of the test, to put us P8 or whatever we were, like, that wasn't even that good of a lap, and yet it did a decent lap time, right? I mean, last year it would have taken perfection to try to do that. So it's just a little bit of a different animal.
I feel like I might have asked you before, but you run a really different line from a lot of your competitors around here. Why is that?
Yeah, I mean, it's not on purpose. I think the RLL car is very hard to drive typically because it lacks a lot of rear end feel, and I'm a guy who's very sensitive to that. And so, that causes, unfortunately, somewhat of a high exit because you're never fully confident to just steer the car in. I mean, with Ganassi or some of the other cars I've driven in the past, I never really had that. But we're working on that. We're going to try to get it a lot better. I think, too, with RLL in the recent years, like, we've kind of caused some of that because of the fact that we didn't have speed. So we had to free the cars up unnecessarily, or we were doing things that would cause us to do it unnecessarily. And hopefully we don't have to have that this year.
The test was good. I think our qualifying car is very, very quick. At the moment, I don't think it's the fastest one. We still got some work to do, but our race trim still needs some work as well. The hybrid unit, it introduces a whole new aspect of what we need to work on because the weight of the car is different. It's a different weight distribution. And these tires, they seem to be more suited to a lighter car. And so I think that as we get into the test running and the race trim, that'll be our main focus, just to get the ability to understand how do we run forward in the pack. It seems like everyone's struggling with it. I don't think that we're the only team by any means, but the passes are coming a little bit later than expected, and I think that'll make for a challenging race.
It's not that different in race trim. Not crazy different. In qualifying, yes, it's definitely tougher with that weight. When you're sort of on the edge of sliding, the weight makes a big difference.
I heard another driver describe it as almost qualifying last year on a full fuel load. Is that kind of what you think?
Pretty much is, yeah. Full fuel is 106 pounds or so, over 100 pounds. So it pretty much is that, except that 100 pounds is in a worse spot. It's further back. It's not in the middle of the car in a nice spot. So, yeah.
Yeah, last year was obviously a bit of a write-off with the engine failure on lap 4, but since then, that was actually my first oval. That wasn't only my first 500, and it's a lot to take in. First oval being the 500, it's a massive challenge. So I feel sorry for Robert Schwartzman at this point. But since then, I've done, Iowa, Gateway, Nashville, Milwaukee. Yeah. So I feel like I've learned a lot, and already watching my footage from last year, it seems like I don't quite know what I was thinking, in the sense that I wasn't doing a very good job. So I've already learned a lot in 12 months, and I expect this month to be another learning curve. But it helps that I've got a strong car. Like that's one of the fundamental pieces of the Indy 500.
Well, obviously, when you go out there and you see that everything is working fine. When you put your car, whatever you want to do, and it's working. When you're making change, they're responding. So these things are related to when the car is actually a good balance, but it's still room to improve, a lot of room to improve, and that's what we're going to do.
Is it hard to do this once a year?
Yes, it is, because you want to do. Well, as I was watching the race in the GP, I was like, I wish should be there, but. You just gotta take as what you got, and I'm not taking anything for granted, and I feel that this is the right way to do it.
So definitely some interesting comments there from the drivers. I still kind of feel the way that I felt here in April, is that the two drivers to beat right now are Scott McLaughlin, who just looked dynamite in traffic today. I mean, just could pass anybody, and I think Kyle Kirkwood's got a really strong car as well. But certainly you cannot count out drivers like Josef Newgarden. I think Newgarden really does have the chance to make history. I think we really, really need to establish this because he's just loose, he's confident, he's excited to be here, as evidenced by what you saw in that video. A new chassis, that doesn't seem to be any kind of a hindrance to him. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Josef Newgarden win his third Indianapolis 500 in a row. And very interesting, too, you noticed, I think, a lot towards the front half of the field, cars with H's on them, Hondas. But the cars that are, I think, the most strong challengers, the fastest cars in the field, are the 3 Penske cars. So I think right now it's probably the 3 top Honda teams, which would be Andretti, Ganassi, and Shank against the Penskes, with Ed Carpenter Racing and Arrow McLaren kind of haunting in the background. That's kind of what I would say the Indy 500 looks like based on the 3 days that we've seen these cars run around the ovals. But as I mentioned, the Penske cars really have something that I think no one else has, because Eric Smith of IndyCar actually posted a really interesting stat, which were the trap speeds, and it kind of sounds like we're talking about like the 1994 Mercedes Penske here, but they were 2 miles per hour faster than anybody else going into turn 1 on the speedway. So I think that's something to really look out for. I think there's a bigger gap as well this year between the haves and the have-nots. I think part of that, which I don't think is the worst thing in the world, is the fact that you've had this change with the hybrid. The teams that, are always ahead have been able to figure out more quickly than others. Makes a lot of sense when you change things. And some of the teams towards the back of the field haven't figured things out quite as much. So it seems like, maybe the front of the field is going to be as close as we've ever seen it, but further on down it might not be as close. There's a couple of cars that really stood out to me today. Obviously, Prema, the fact that they did not come out quickly enough, in my opinion, they burned a whole lot of practice time. And imagine if this had been a full day, not weather interrupted, the fact that they only got those cars out for about the last hour and a half of practice is frankly unacceptable as a new team. If you're going to try to qualify for this race and potentially one of your cars is going to go home, and you've gone to the lengths that you have to make sure that you protect your position in the field, that's tough. I mean, I've got to just levy some really harsh criticism there at that team. You've got to show up to Indy with your gun loaded, and if you don't, you get shot. Takuma Sato, new car, brand new chassis that the Rahal team absolutely did an amazing job to even get to the track to run today, but he was late getting out. Takes a little while to get these cars back, in working order. And Takuma didn't look super comfortable today. There's no doubt about it. So I think that's going to be one of the storylines of the month, is not only the guys who crashed in the open test, or at least crashed hard enough where they really hurt their car like Takuma Sato, but guys who crashed later on. Are they going to be able to recover? And imagine if Takuma Sato had the crash he had in April and had to return to the track today, and today was qualifying. Those are the sort of things that we watch for later on in the week. And I mentioned it already, Rinus VeeKay, but what's going on with that car? Not a lot of speed, it looks like right now. We have another sponsor as well for this video, Gutswear, where you can get a link in the description for them, which has shirts, hats, die-cast. People ask me all the time where to get that. That's where you get that. And they've sponsored our history segments for this month. You should go check out gutswear.com and check out this video about the other double, which involves NASCAR and IndyCar, and Kyle Larson is attempting to complete it, and doing it in a way that no other driver ever has, because no other driver has won the Brickyard 400 and returned at the Indy 500 first. Let's talk about the Brickyard 400 Indy 500 crossover.
No single event had a bigger ripple effect in American auto racing than the first Brickyard 400 at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in 1994. Jeff Gordon, a driver overlooked by IndyCar teams of the time, won that day for Hendrick Motorsports and became an overnight superstar, striking the final blow in the balance of power shift between IndyCar racing and NASCAR racing in terms of popularity. Though the prestige of the event has significantly waned over the past 30 years, the Brickyard 400 is still considered a crown jewel of stock car racing. 20 drivers have competed in both the Brickyard 400 and the Indianapolis 500. Some of these drivers include names like J.J. Yaley, Jason Leffler, A.J. Allmendinger, Scott Pruitt, Max Pappas, Danica Patrick, Patrick Carpentier, Jeff Brabham, Larry Foyt, Robbie Gordon, John Andretti, and Kurt Busch. Kyle Larson is making history this year as the first defending Brickyard 400 champion to attempt to qualify in the following year's Indianapolis 500. 8 of the 20 drivers who have run both have won one, but none have won both. That list includes Indy 500 winners Juan Pablo Montoya, Sam Hornish Jr., Danny Sullivan, Jacques Villeneuve, and the grand champion A.J. Foyt. 3 Brickyard 400 winners have raced in the 500. They include the aforementioned Larson, 4-time Brickyard winner Jimmy Johnson, who made his only 500 start in 2022, and Tony Stewart, who began his career in Indy cars before transitioning full-time to stockers.
Tony Stewart, a native Hoosier, his dream comes true. Tony Stewart wins the All-State 400 at the Brickyard.
Stewart would manage to win twice in the Tin Tops, but both victories were after his IndyCar career had ended. Juan Pablo Montoya, like many open-wheel drivers of his era, also made the transition to stockers late in the 2000s. Montoya, already an Indy 500 champion in 2000, scored a second place in his first attempt at the Brickyard in 2007. Montoya appeared to be well on his way to matching his Indy 500 win in 2009 at the Brickyard 400, leading 116 of the 160 laps, until a questionable at best speeding penalty was levied to the Colombian.
Good, I guarantee you, I swear on my children and my wife, I was not speeding.
Montoya never recovered, and Jimmy Johnson held off teammate Mark Martin to score his third of 4 Brickyard wins. Montoya would return to the Indy cars in 2014 and would make an unsuccessful one-off attempt for Team Penske in the Brickyard in the same year, but he would transition fully to Indy cars for 2015 and it would pay off. He won the Indianapolis 500 and he would never return to the Brickyard. Kyle Larson's Indy 500 attempt this year is something we've never seen before, and we may never see it again. A melding of Indianapolis's 2 marquee events. Just imagine if Jeff Gordon had competed in the 1995 Indy 500. We are living in that reality. Enjoy it.
Thanks to Gutswear for sponsoring that. They're at the track, by the way. You can check them out over at their merchandise trailer. A lot of people have already been doing that. Tomorrow, pretty busy day here. We hope, again, weather doesn't interrupt, but if it does, we've got plenty of content still for you. Tony Kanaan is doing his refresher test tomorrow at 10 a.m. Track activity begins in earnest at noon, so we potentially will see 35 driver car combinations on the track tomorrow. Of course, one of those is sharing a car between Tony Kanaan and Kyle Larson, but still should be pretty cool. And we've also got a history segment on another version of the double, and something that Josef Newgarden did last year. That's your hint. Thank you guys so much for watching this. Thanks to Qapital for becoming the title sponsor of our Indy 500 coverage. We really appreciate them. We're looking forward to continuing to introduce them to you. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been David Land on YouTube, and we'll see you for Wednesday practice here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.